His ex-wife laughed as she walked away, leaving him with nothing but a decaying mansion. In the courtroom, Claire's laughter sliced through Marcus like shards of glass. She had taken his company, homes, and assets, leaving him with only the crumbling mansion on Millstone Hill. That worthless property, she thought, was all he had left. She smirked, believing she had completely destroyed him. What she didn't realize was that years earlier, Marcus had transformed that so-called dump into a hidden stronghold filled with cash, gold, and jewels, untouchable by any court. Months later, while Claire's empire sank under crushing debt, Marcus made his return, stronger than before. But before we dive deeper into the story, if this is your first time watching, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more powerful stories. Stick with us till the end, and if this story resonates with you, leave your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Now let's begin. The gavel crashed down with a snap, the sound echoing like a broken bone, and the room tensed. Marcus Hayes remained still. His posture was firm, as though he had already endured the worst and had nothing left to lose. Overhead, the harsh fluorescent lights buzzed, cold and indifferent. The judge read off figures, assets, valuations, words that once represented hard work, pride, and long hours. Now they sounded like numbers being called out in a warehouse. Claire, sitting across the room, casually crossed her legs, completely at ease, as though this was nothing more than a routine flight. A small smile played at the corner of her lips. Her lawyer slid a document forward, and pens clicked in unison. Murmurs filled the room. "What's with this guy? Lost everything." One whispered. "Married up, man." "Married wrong," another voice added. Marcus pinched the ridge of his tie, not to straighten it, but to feel something, anything. His palms burned with the need to act. The air smelled of dust and forgotten files. He glanced down at Jasmine, his 10-year-old daughter, huddled into her sweater, trying to shrink into the background. Her small hand clutched his fingers, and he clenched his jaw to keep the emotion from spilling out in front of the cameras. The court declared that Claire would take control of Hayes Innovations, its subsidiaries and their properties. Everything except for the secondary property on Millstone Hill. A ripple of laughter filled the room. "The haunted mansion," someone chuckled. "Crumbling relic," muttered another. Claire didn't look up, simply flicking a strand of hair back, as if the idea of ruins didn't even warrant her attention. She set the pen down with a soft tap that sounded like a lock clicking shut. Marcus took a slow breath, holding it in, then exhaling even slower. This was the moment when most men would break. He didn't. He let the humiliation wash over him, cold and unrelenting, but he didn't flinch. He had known pain that didn't trend on social media, grief that didn't need hashtags. He swallowed hard, shifted his weight slightly, nothing overt, just a quiet decision not to fold. As he walked down the corridor with Jasmine, the whispers followed him. "Do you think he's done for?" one voice asked. "Looks like it," came the reply, tinged with sympathy. "He used to help kids with scholarships. Life's funny that way." Marcus adjusted Jasmine's backpack strap and guided her toward the exit. The hallway reeked of toner and stale coffee. Cameras blinked red, and a security guard scratched his jaw, lingering for a moment longer than necessary. Claire's laughter echoed from behind them. Sharp, rehearsed, the kind of laugh you use when you think the world belongs to you. Outside, the wind cut through Marcus's suit, sending a chill through him. Leaves in the planters rattled, never appearing alive. Traffic hissed, and a delivery truck beeped as it reversed. Jasmine's breath formed a small cloud in the crisp air. He bent down to meet her eyes, whispering, "We're okay." It wasn't a promise, but a command to his own heart to keep beating steady. On the curb, two interns in cheap suits compared notes. "She took everything," one said. "He's stuck with that dead house." The other shrugged. "That's all he deserves." "Man, that's cold," the first replied. Marcus turned his gaze toward the city's jagged skyline, and beyond it, to a hill that was out of sight. Millstone Hill. A place everyone had written off as finished. He let the thought settle in his mind, heavy and unshakable. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a watch he had kept since his first contract. The ticking was steady, not a sound of defeat. With a subtle motion, he hailed a cab, 2 fingers enough to get its attention. The handle of the door felt colder than the air itself. Jasmine slid in first, and he followed, his movements measured and deliberate. The car creaked as it merged into traffic, the courthouse shrinking behind them in the rearview mirror, its noise and the whispers of others fading away. Let them hold on to their laughter, he thought. Let them keep their headlines. He had something none of them could name, something waiting exactly where she said she would never bother looking. The mansion on Millstone Hill appeared lifeless. It looked like a relic from another time, its roof sagging, ivy overtaking the brick, shutters hanging by a single hinge. The gravel drive was overrun with weeds, and the gate seemed too embarrassed to even stand upright. Even the wind here felt slower, heavier. Marcus stepped out of the cab, Jasmine by his side. The driver glanced at the mansion with a long stare before driving away. "You really staying here, man?" His voice held no judgment, only disbelief. Marcus didn't reply. He simply pushed open the rusted iron gate, its hinges groaning from disuse. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth, a smell most would associate with decay. But to Marcus, it was the scent of solitude. Inside, the floor creaked under their feet. Wallpaper peeled in large strips, exposing plaster the color of old teeth. The rain had left its mark on the ceiling, staining it with brown spots. Somewhere deep in the house, a loose window frame rattled softly with the wind. Jasmine wrinkled her nose. "Dad, this place is kind of creepy." He glanced at her, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "That's what makes it perfect." What she didn't know, and what no one outside these walls ever would, was that 10 years ago, before Claire and the courtroom humiliation, Marcus had turned this mansion into his safety net. Back when Hayes Innovations was thriving, he had grown wary of how quickly wealth could disappear, whether through taxes, lawsuits, or those who pretended to be friends. So he'd hired a contractor under a false name, paying him in cash, under the guise of expanding a wine cellar. Marcus oversaw every detail: steel-reinforced walls, a triple-lock vault door, climate control, and silent alarms that weren't connected to any network. Over the years he filled it, piece by piece, with hard cash, gold bars, rare diamonds, and antique jewelry worth more than houses. He never told Claire. She wouldn't have understood the need for such secrecy. She never even set foot in this house, calling it the haunted carcass of his family's past, and making it clear she wasn't interested in anything that might remind her of it. He led Jasmine down a narrow hall to a door that looked like it belonged in a storage closet. The key was cold in his hand, and the lock clicked slowly, deliberately. The air shifted, a faint metallic chill, like something dormant was stirring. He pushed the door open, revealing a steep staircase leading into darkness. Dust motes floated in the light of a lone bulb overhead. Marcus ascended the steps slowly, his polished shoes leaving faint impressions in the thin layer of dust. Jasmine followed, the squeak of her sneakers breaking the silence. At the bottom, they reached a second door, unassuming, wooden, almost harmless. Marcus knelt, brushing the dust from the floor, then pressed his palm against a knot in the wood. With a soft mechanical sigh, a panel slid away, revealing the vault door behind it. The steel was flawless, untouched by time. He spun the lock's wheel, each turn deliberate. The air on the other side was cool, tinged with the faint scent of cedar and wealth. Gold bars stacked like bricks of sunlight, cash wrapped neatly in plastic, velvet boxes lined up like soldiers, each containing diamonds that caught the dim light and scattered it in 1,000 directions. Jasmine's eyes widened, but she remained silent, stepping closer with the softest of footfalls. Marcus placed his hand on a stack of gold. "This is why we don't panic," he said quietly, almost casually. Above, a loose shutter banged in the wind, a noise that might have been mistaken for the mansion itself sighing. He stood there for a long moment, letting the stillness settle in. The world thought he was finished. Claire believed she had stripped him of everything. But in this cold room, he was far from ruined. He wasn't just surviving, he was free. Not yet ready to strike, but ready to begin again. He didn't touch much of the wealth around him. After all, that was the point. An empire isn't built by showing all your cards at once. You move quietly, like threading a needle in the dark. For the first 2 weeks after the divorce, he kept the mansion looking as desolate as ever. The shutters still rattled. Weeds had overtaken the gravel driveway, and to any passerby, It looked like the place was barely holding together, a mere winter away from falling apart. This disrepair kept most of the curious at bay. But every morning, after Marcus walked his daughter Jasmine to school, he would return, head down and hands in his pockets. He would quietly slip inside, head down to the vault, and take just enough, an envelope of cashier's checks, a velvet box, fueling his next step without attracting attention. The first call was to an old friend, Arturo, who ran a discreet pawn and precious metals exchange out of a warehouse by the docks. No receipts, just trust and a handshake. Arturo's eyes widened when the first diamond hit the table. "Man, you've been holding out on me," he said. Marcus just gave a faint smile. "I've been patient." While Claire flaunted herself in galas and new gowns, Marcus was quietly buying back influence, making small, strategic moves. An underperforming logistics company no one was watching. A share of stock in an energy firm where the CEO owed him a favor. A tech startup barely making news, but set to explode in 2 years. Meanwhile, rumors about Claire started circulating. In coffee shops and business lunches, people whispered, "She's running Hayes Innovations now. Poor girl, she's in over her head. She doesn't even know the difference between a ledger and a lunch menu." The sharks were starting to circle. Even Jasmine overheard. One afternoon, 2 women in the store near the frozen food section spoke in low tones. She took everything from her husband. Yeah, and now she's about to lose it all. Karma's a patient lady. Jasmine looked at her father as they left, a shy smile tugging at her lips. He just raised an eyebrow. "People talk," he said. "We let them." At the mansion, things were changing. Not on the outside, not yet, but inside. Marcus fixed up the old study, replacing the warped wood, and sealing the windows. He transformed a dusty drawing room into a sleek office with a long mahogany desk and 2 leather chairs. The vault became an extension of that office, a treasury feeding a vision only he could see. Every night, he'd stand by the cracked second-story window, watching headlights crawl down the distant road, savoring the slow, delicious feeling of preparation. By the 3rd month, the vault had lightened by maybe 2%, but the investments it funded were already taking root. Calls from overseas partners came in at odd hours. His accounts were growing, not from anything Claire could touch, but from ventures she could never understand. Then, one morning, while Marcus was going over some contracts in the renovated study, his phone buzzed with a message from Arturo. "She's in trouble. Your ex, real trouble." Marcus leaned back, steepling his fingers, the leather chair creaking beneath him. It wasn't time to smile, but it was getting close. By month 4, Claire's glossy social media posts began to slow. No more champagne glasses clinking against city skylines, no more red carpet smiles with industry elites. Instead, there were grainy photos taken in dimly lit restaurants, captions that tried too hard, and an obvious absence of certain friends who had once been by her side. The gossip in the business district turned even sharper. Hayes Innovations missed another quarterly filing. Vendors aren't getting paid. She's mortgaging properties now, desperate move. Marcus heard it all without asking. People love to tell you bad news about someone who wronged you, but he didn't gloat. Not yet. He stayed at the mansion, refining his plans, moving money, building silent empires from the shadows. One rainy afternoon, he was in the study when a segment came on the business news channel. Breaking. Hayes Innovations faces foreclosure proceedings on 2 major properties after defaulting on multiple loans. The anchor's tone was neutral, but the footage wasn't. Clips of Claire leaving the courthouse, her hair plastered to her face, her makeup washed away by the rain. She didn't look like a queen anymore. She looked like someone who had been shoved out of her own castle. By month 6, bankruptcy filings hit. Luxury cars were repossessed. The penthouse was sold at auction. She even tried selling off the company's remaining assets, only to find that many were tied up in liens she couldn't lift. Marcus's phone buzzed constantly. Journalists wanted his take on the collapse of his former company. Investors wanted him back. Overseas partners were eager to pump money into anything he touched. That was when he decided it was time. His comeback wouldn't be loud, it would be deliberate. Invitations went out for a launch event at the city's most iconic skyscraper. The press release announced Hayes Global Investments, a firm focusing on high-value, high-integrity ventures. It was a statement that said, "I'm back and this time no one is taking my crown." On the day of the launch, the lobby buzzed with cameras, reporters, and industry heavyweights. Marcus stepped onto the stage in a sharp charcoal suit, his tie perfectly knotted. His daughter Jasmine, now glowing in a simple but elegant dress, stood proudly beside him. He didn't mention Claire by name. He didn't have to. Success, he told the crowd, isn't about what others give you or take from you. It's about what you're willing to protect, even when the world thinks you've lost. The applause filled the room. Cameras flashed like fireworks. For a moment, Marcus let himself savor it. The vindication, the freedom, the fresh start. Somewhere across town, in a cramped apartment she could barely afford, Claire scrolled through her news feed. The headline under Marcus's photo read, "From ruins to riches. Marcus Hayes returns stronger than ever." The coffee in her mug had gone cold. The laugh she once used to humiliate him was long gone, replaced by silence. And at Millstone Hill, the mansion still stood, its shutters repaired, its gates straightened, and its secrets intact. Marcus knew one thing. You never show the world all your cards. You just let them think they've won, until the day they realize they were playing the wrong game all along. If you think Marcus' comeback was satisfying, just wait until you hear the next story. Another betrayal, a bigger twist, and a revenge you won't see coming. So hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stick around. You're not going to want to miss what's next.